Dorchester forward. Welcoming everyone this evening. We want to thank first off the Dorchester Chamber, WHCP, the SPY, the League of Women Voters, and the Mid-Shore Board of Realtors for sponsoring this event. We also want to encourage folks to share the links to the video to help others become informed voters. So throughout the city, make sure that you, through your network, if everyone sends it out to your network, we'll get more and more people to know exactly what's going on and have full information for the candidates. The candidates this evening are Laurel Atkiss, La-Shon Foster, Addie Eckardt, Robbie Larimer, Steve Rideout, and Sonny Travers was not able to attend due to health reasons. So we're going to start with a 2-minute opening statement. We will rotate this throughout the evening so that each person has the opportunity to speak first and also to be last. So we'll start with a 2-minute opening statement for each candidate, then go through a series of questions, and as we get close to time, then we'll end with a last question, and each will have a 2-minute time frame to have a closing statement. Bill's going to be our timer this evening, so there is a 2-minute time frame for each question. So if someone does go over, we will very politely encourage them to end their response so that we can be fair to all candidates. So beginning with our 2-minute opening statement, we will start with Laurel Atkiss here to my left.
Good evening. And thank you for having all of us. Thank you all for being here and being enthusiastic about this special election, because it's a really pivotal time for Cambridge. This is a very important role to fill at a very important, time in our soon-to-be history. I'm newer to the area than everyone else up here, but I genuinely love this town. I came here and immediately felt vital and welcome in this community. And that's an energy that I think we definitely need to hold close as one of our assets and maintain that in making others feel welcome and continuing that success. My heart is invested in this, and I am really here because I want to inspire more people to get involved, to be present, to be informed, and to be effective in positive change in our community. Thank you.
Senator Eckardt.
Thanks so much, and good evening, everybody. Thanks so much to our sponsors for hosting this evening. I am Addie Eckardt, and I am just so grateful for this opportunity that I didn't think I was ever going to have. We moved to Cambridge after getting washed out by a hurricane in South Texas in 1970, raised our family here out in Algonquin, and we're very involved in the community at that time, whether it was band parents or it was shows with Jamie Roeder and company, or whether we were involved with Little League or church or the bus ministry. A lot of things back in those days. We even had the opportunity to work with the community while I was assessing healthcare needs to go to Beaufort, South Carolina, to determine what a federally qualified health center would look here. I had previous history working with the migrant group in mental health issues up in Hurlock, but we had a tremendous need right here in Cambridge, so I got involved. I'm a psych nurse by profession, so I continue my practice and have throughout my legislative career, so I've kind of been a dual tracker. And I think that I'm uniquely qualified at this particular time. I'm pleased to be able to serve as the mayor of Cambridge if that is your choosing. I have worked on an active psych unit. I know what it is like to manage violence and to be able to work with a lot of different people and bringing folks together for greater good and to maintain calm. And I also have a long history of legislative achievement, so I think at this point in time I would be the right choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Robbie Larimer.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Larimer. You know what, I had this great speech prepared, but that's not what you're here for. Hi, I'm Robbie Larimer. I'm a lifetime citizen from Cambridge, born and raised here, raising a family, 2 kids here, married, been devoted my whole life to public service. For the last 28 years, been a member of Rescue Fire Company, come up through there from a cadet all the way through rank of captain. Worked for Dorchester County for the last 23 years, with the last 17 of them being for the sheriff's office. Now more than ever is that important because Cambridge is at a very bad place. We've got a lot of crime issues, we've got a lot of public safety issues, and that's why I think I need to have this position now, my calling for this position is now, because that kind of stuff needs to be addressed. And once that's addressed, once the public safety is under control, once the crime rates are down, we'll have the other things will fall in place, the economics, the housing, the jobs. That'll all fall into place once all that comes under control. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Larimer. La-Shon Foster.
Hi, for those that know me and those who do not know me, my name is La-Shon Banks Foster. I am one of 8 children, and I have been a lifelong resident of the city of Cambridge. My parents are Robert Banks and Guinevere Banks, and my husband is John Foster. We have a lot of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I have served 2 previous terms as a city commissioner, and during that time, I had an opportunity to attend the Academy for Excellence in Local Governance that was offered in partnership with the University of Maryland School of Public Policy. That program taught us the educational opportunities designed to increase our understanding of local government and how it functions. In addition to that, I have an AA degree in Humanities and Social Science, a BS degree in Social Work, and a master's degree in Social Work and Administration. I've also held several jobs, including 18 years with the Department of Social Services, but 35 years as a social worker. As you can see, I present with a variety of experiences that blends well with our community and the current state that we're in. Being a servant in our community is one of the highest honors that has ever been bestowed to me, and I would like to continue that service as your next mayor.
Ms. Foster. Judge D. Rideout.
Thank you. Thank you all and welcome as well. Glad to see such a big crowd come for this, and I hope that we have a lot of viewers who will be watching it tonight and also in a recording. I moved here about 12 years ago, part-time, and then in 2010 we were full-time residents of Cambridge. When we moved here, Bobby and I, we wanted to get involved, and so I started working with the school system, volunteering in the community, trying to find ways that I could help based on my education and experience and the prior work that I had done around the country and in another state. I got asked to help rewrite the city charter in order to develop a city manager form of government, city manager, city council form of government, which we worked on for 2.5 years, and finally were able to get the city council to agree to change that charter. I became a city commissioner in 2016 and served until early 2021. Before that, I was a juvenile and domestic relations district court judge in Virginia, where we did any number of things dealing with children's issues, truancy, delinquency, domestic violence, child welfare, termination of parental rights, handing out driver's licenses, you name it, and it had to do with the family, we did it. After retiring from that, I consulted around the country on child welfare, working with counties, court systems, and county child welfare agencies to help improve foster care, which is really one of the great challenges that we have in this country. That's been 2 minutes? Okay. I guess I'll stop there.
Thank you, Judge Rideout. Actually, hold the mic. We're going to start with you. First question, and this will come back down this way. Let's start right where you kind of ended. Describe your understanding of the role of the mayor of Cambridge.
Well, the role of the mayor of Cambridge is expressed in the charter. It was written. It tells you what the mayor is to do. Specifically, it's we're the representative, or the mayor is the representative of the city, around the city, around the state, around the country. We are to be involved with state and federal governments in the talking about funding or projects or how to make life here in Cambridge work better. We also, technical thing, we serve as the resident agent for the city in the event that the city is sued. The mayor is the person that gets to get the papers. The mayor has no vote except in ties. The mayor can veto legislation, but nothing else. The real value of the mayor is in being someone who can go out into the community to find out what's going on in the community, what the community needs, what the community is talking about, so that he or she can come back to City Council and help to inform the members of City Council on what the decisions are that they need to make. Their vote, they are the voting power in the city. The mayor is not. But the mayor can be one that has even more power because he or she can come to you and to find out what you want, listen to what you are about, listen to what you see the needs are, and from that can convey that back to the commissioners so that they understand what you feel is important.
Thank you. Ms. Foster.
Our mayor is the person chosen by the people of Cambridge to bring their voice to the meetings and the work sessions to represent their best interests while there. The tie-breaking vote, of course, in the event that that happens. And the veto is a strong power to have because if there's legislation that comes through that, we feel needs further inspection, further study, we have the opportunity to bring that back and allow us to look at it more deeply. Beyond that, we really need to be present and available to the citizens of Cambridge in times of both celebration and in times of devastation. A knowledge of the current events, and awareness of what's going on and the pressing issues from all the wards is definitely necessary. We need to be present to connect with people and hear from them in times of both joy and introspection. We need to affect positive change in people's hearts and in policies. And we have a lot of healing to do and a lot of repairs to make in a city that has seen what it is to truly boom, but also what it is to crumble. Battles were fought in these streets, people were divided, and the mayor should be active in community efforts to bring those people back together and heal those wounds that are still very present. I think to help Cambridge boom, we definitely need to be present, county, state, and federal level as much as possible. Be present at events, promotions, and things that really matter to the citizens. Be that face, there's a positive change for Cambridge.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Eckardt.
Thank you very much. The mayor is the face of Cambridge and gets to be the cheerleader, the coach, the negotiator, the person who's out there getting in touch with everyone, building relationships between communities, between the wards, has to be knowledgeable about all of Cambridge, and has to be sensitive to where the history has been and where the future is going to go. Helps build the vision, but also is in a position to look at the assets, the strengths and weaknesses, not only within city government, but within the community itself, to be able to bring all of those factors together to make a good assessment and to support the council and the county and the city manager in moving forward with their vision that they have set forth. I think the mayor is also in a position, depending on the knowledge and experience that that person brings to the table, is in a position to be the community relations person and also the government relations person, and being able to be a strong advocate both at the state and the federal level, making sure that all of those networks and all of those possibilities are engaged to be able to find and secure funding for the initiatives that the council, the commission, and the team put together.
Thank you, Eddie. Mr. Larimer.
The mayor's job is twofold. There's the outward public portion of the mayor's job, that's the liaison to the businesses, the liaison to the government, other government agencies, the the person that makes sure that the city manager, the city council is following through with the promises to those businesses, working with those businesses to try to get them to come here. The mayor. The other role of the mayor is the inward within the city government itself. And it's a very important checks and balance system to the city council. The mayor needs to be the voice for all the citizens of the city, not just the specific wards. The mayor needs to be there to make sure everything is going to the public, that the public knows what's going on, not secret backdoor deals or projects out there. That needs to be brought to the attention of the people. The mayor needs to organize and deal with the people from all the wards to make sure that the will of all the city is being done, not just a few select people. Mr. Rideout and a couple others mentioned the veto power. That is very important. That's a very, very important thing, again, to make sure things are being done and being done above board. The mayor is the liaison to the people, to the businesses, and to the community to make sure that their will is being done, not just the will of a select few. Thank you.
Okay, and with Ms. Foster, and then you'll have the first on the next question.
I know that we have heard that the government here in Cambridge, the mayor, is a weak form of government. But I'm here to tell you tonight that the mayor is a very powerful form of government here in Cambridge. The mayor is the voice for the community, and the community is the force behind that voice. So as you can see, yes, you can do veto powers. We do emergency preparedness. We will let the city know when we have an emergency, because that's how we get the state funding, the federal funding. We also are a strong influence for policy sitting. And everything that we've said here tonight, the mayor's job is not limited to that. This is just a small portion of what the mayor's role is. The mayor is to serve the community and work with the community. They're also here to hear the city staff, and they're here to listen to voices from birth to the grave. Everybody has to be included in the city of Cambridge, and we have to make sure that we're not just getting along to get along, but that we are really representing our community in a way that it has never been represented before. Cambridge is a beautiful place to live. It's a beautiful city. We have beautiful people here, and together with the mayor, the council, and the community being the force behind the voices that you elect, we can get the job done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You hold the mic there. We're going to go on to question number 2, and several people have touched on the economy. The question is, Ms. Foster, what are the top 3 economic drivers in Cambridge, and how would you support them?
I would say community growth through local business, human investment, and tourism. As our community grows, that increases the opportunity for our local businesses to grow and sustain. However, as our community grows, you must also include human investment. A town can grow if we include all ages, as I stated before, from birth to the grave. We have to provide opportunities for all community members to have an outlet. We have little activities in Cambridge for the city as a whole. We can be more than just a restaurant and a bar. Invest in human investment in people moving here. We can find that if we do this, our town does not have to go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night. Human investment is the development of entrepreneurship ecosystem. Tourism. The community flourishes with this industry. Cambridge was a rich and robust town that was considered the hub of the Eastern Shore. We had a decline in industries, which led us to where we are in our economy now. But we can build that with what we have. We have a rich heritage. We have a lot of history here, and we have only just begun to tap into it. That history here is so amazing that we can draw people from all over the United States. When we go to places like Louisiana, guess what? Cambridge is in the map there. Cambridge is in the museum there. We can attract people from everywhere. So those would be my top 3 when it comes to economic growth.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. And then going on to Judge Rideout. Yep, pass the mic back that way.
When I saw this question, I thought, what are the three economic drivers, or what can they be? And I don't know that we know what they can be. There are businesses that are in somebody's mind, in somebody's garage right now being worked on, that can be the driver next week, next month, next year. For me, what I would do first is I got to go listen to the business community and the community and find out from them what they believe are the business drivers and why, and how they think that we could improve what's going on. I think it's presumptuous of me to come in here and say, oh, these are the three, and these are the ones that we need to undertake. Certainly tourism is one. It's key here. We all know that. Harriet Tubman, everything Harriet Tubman, is also an important economic driver here. And it's getting bigger and bigger and more important. So what would that mean? That would mean extra support maybe for our tourism folks. Should the city be adding or helping them with additional staff in order to promote the city in addition to what they're doing for the county? There are a number of other things. Years ago, I suggested to some folks that maybe what we needed to do in terms of economic tourism is to get the Hyatt and the Harriet Tubman Museum, Suicide Bridge, and Hurlock to get together and to do some weekend packages that would bring tourists here for the train ride and the boat ride and going out to Harriet Tubman. Businesses need workers. We got to do something more and better to train the workers in this town, students and those adults. And we need to be ready when companies want to come here to be able to train them, to train the people to work in those businesses.
Rideout. We'll come back to Ms. Atkiss.
Realistically, as a poor community, a large number of our jobs still rest in the public sector. We all know probably more than one people that work in the schools or in the health department or a nurse or an EMT. And these are vital jobs, and we need those. We just don't want that to be our only option. I think after that, we can definitely look at our manufacturing and industrial complex. Cambridge International is high at the top of the list of employers. We have a unique combination of agriculture and food production-based production there with Protenergy, now Treehouse, and Culta. Culta is an amazing operation that is constantly expanding and really breaking ground in its industry. That's a wonderful thing to have here. We have a lot more space to encourage people to join us in that area as new technologies and new production possibilities come around. Aquaculture would be something amazing to look into, as it would complement our seafood industry so well. So that industrial section is huge. And tourism, the Hyatt kind of cracked the door open to change how tourism works in Cambridge, and working with them as their property evolves and expands. We can look for more guests and residents to be here and to spend their time and their money with us. Once again, we're perched on this precipice also with CWDI. If we can make sure that waterfront development is built to create thoughtful, sustainable, and connected businesses so that it complements our expanding downtown and our packing house project instead of drawing away from it. And lastly, the bounty of our waterways is crucial. You know, the harvest that comes out of there with the crabs and the oysters and the fish, that's also tradition for our area. And maintaining our waterways, keeping that healthy and sustainable for our watermen is definitely a vital thing to keep that as a crucial part of our industry as well.
Thank you, Laurel. We'll go to Addie.
Thank you very much. If we look historically, we know that Cambridge and Dorchester County was overly dependent on manufacturing. So one of the things that I've been concerned about through the years is to make sure we have diversification in our net economic profile if we're going to be sustainable going forward. And that's one of the things I've worked on in my role in both the House and the Senate. But the actual three top economic drivers in Dorchester County are the Hyatt, University of Maryland, with the federally qualified, with the new FMF, and Santo Grande's program, where we are right here. These are our biggest economic drivers short of other government agencies. And it's going to be really important as we go forward, even though we do have manufacturing. The other one is manufacturing, Rexmark. We've always had a bundle of light manufacturing here in Dorchester County, and as my colleague here said, you know, with CULT coming in and with the continued diversification and where we are with aquaculture and many of our new industries, that's really important. But as far as economic drivers right now, I think we need to pay attention to our workforce. We can do all the best we can with tourism and with all of our deep, rich cultural heritage, but right now we've got a major workforce shortage. So we need to be focused on that to be able to support our businesses so that they can grow and thrive.
Thank you, Addie. Pass to Robbie.
So I saw this question, and it kind of could be interpreted a lot of ways. So here's how I interpreted it. What are the economic drivers? Right now, our economic drivers are the businesses we have here, the culture we have here, and the employees we have here. Right now, we're at a big push in the school system everywhere to make everybody high school, you know, college ready. College, college, college. We don't have that business structure here to support that. We need to get with the businesses that are here, see what they need to support. We've got a lot of large manufacturing. Cambridge International has been mentioned, LWRC, Air Liquide. We need to go to them, find out what they need from our community, what they need from employee-wise, and work with the school systems and say, hey, instead of making everybody college, why don't we work on trades? Why don't we work on this trade or that trade? That way we can support the industries that are in our back door and help them flourish. We've got other things, you know, besides industry. We've got the crabbing, we've got the farming. We need to support those. We need to have the programs in place to support that. And I lost my chain of thought. So, but that's what we need to do. We need to support them. We need to help them flourish. We've got a lot of potential here, but it's misguided right now. We've got the tech park still sitting out there on Bucktown Road that's almost completely abandoned. There's a couple businesses that have been in and out, but it's an empty shell. There's nothing out there. So we need to make sure we can support and we grow what we have, and then expansion will happen from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. We'll actually start the next question with you and kind of keeping on that trend. List 2 strategies you believe would help existing businesses to expand and explain why.
Well, one strategy would be to help support them more with a workforce that would be what they needed. You know, if you've got an auto body shop, what good is it to have it if you don't have any painters or any body, you know, people that can work on it? If you've got an HVAC company and you can't find HVAC apprentices or mechanics, it's not going to succeed. And the other thing would be to make sure economic development and the Chamber of Commerce's and the city and county grants people are actually working with these businesses and helping them find opportunities, helping them find a place to get funding for expansions, to expand the workforce, to expand their tax base in the city. Help find ways to promote, to keep them here versus them wanting to go somewhere else, whether it's just through grants or it's loosening rewriting some restrictions and making government less involved and less restrictive so that it doesn't seem like we're fighting every business that's coming here, that we're actually trying to help them and encouraging to come here.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, same question. Nope. This is a new question. This is the list 2 strategies you believe would help existing businesses to expand and explain why.
In addition to finding out what the businesses would like, I think that education and technology are 2 strategies that we need to look at. Education is the key to sustainability for our future. We are graduating children from school that cannot read adequately, write adequately, and or comprehend, let alone fill out an application where someone would want to hire you. The city, even though the education comes with the county, I feel that we must join forces with the county and make sure that our children are being taught the basic adequate needs, so that they can get a job. Graduation is the key, but in order to open the door, you got to be able to understand and be able to follow and comprehend what it is that an employer would like for you to do. Technology is another great opportunity that I feel this city could help in. We could help increase businesses and entrepreneurship with technology. Free technology centers to assist with those who need it would increase the ability of all to increase their sales structure, their business growth. COVID has taught us that technology was the key to how a lot of us made it. We were able to stay involved with the world, and we were able to do our jobs with technology. If we had a technology center that was free to all, I think that that would help this city, education and technology.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Mr. Rideout.
I found when I did my consulting work around the country on child welfare that I had to help them understand what they wanted to do. I had to give them, I didn't give them ideas if they had to do this or that, because each jurisdiction, each community was different from another. And for them to be ready to take on the effort to move children back home or get them into adoption more quickly or whatever, they had to have those ideas. And so what I did was I listened. And I listened to each of their views and how they wanted to do it, and then work with them on accomplishing that. In the same way, I think the mayor here has to do the same kind of thing. We can't go into a community or into a business and tell them what to do or how to do it, or this is the way I do it. Well, the way I do it isn't necessarily the way they would do it. And so what we have to do is, by listening, allow them to own what their plan is. Education and training is clearly an important part of that. It's critical, because if you don't have the workforce here, number one, the businesses aren't going to come here, and the businesses who are here aren't going to be able to expand. But the other part of it is helping them to find the resources when they do want to expand. Where do they get that startup money? Where do they go to the bank? Do they go to the state as part of a economic development package? That's where the mayor can be a help to them. So that's how I would approach it.
Okay, thank you, Steve. So Laurel, 2 strategies you believe would help existing businesses expand, and why?
First, I think it's important that we ensure that all of our existing businesses are connected with the resources that are available to them, and that's been mentioned before. The Economic Development Office and Carol Richardson, of course, the Chamber of Commerce, and we're blessed to have a new Main Street director coming on, and I think that's going to open up some more opportunities and help us regain some momentum that we had before. These connections should help people find state and local funding opportunities to help explore new strategies for advertising and promoting all of the things that we have to offer. We have an opportunity to identify and execute a brand for Cambridge, something that we can market and advertise the city as a whole. There's strength in numbers. Let's be sure that we include all of our small and large businesses when we kind of put that together, make sure that we have that diversity recognized, and connect and empower each and every one of them. Advertising is a powerful tool when you're talking about a town, because you can really use it 2 ways. You can use it to directly pull people into your town with all the wonderful things that you have to offer, but you can also use advertising to promote your town to other investors, other businesses. Connecting with some of our more recent investors and developers here might help us find ways to invite new people to invest in Cambridge. When one good space is improved and functioning, that begets another space. The optics improve, foot traffic increases, and ideally everyone gets more recognition and more business. Success begets success. More and more people will want to be a part of the revitalization and see it succeed along with us. So let's put some energy there as well.
Thank you. Passing to Addie, last one.
Thank you very much. I'd like to touch on regulation. Most of our businesses, if they want to expand, have to go through And if you want to start up, you have to go through a lot of different regulation at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. If there is a way that we could have an office that would streamline that, or be able even to have a checklist so that you know what to expect, that you have to, what regulations you have to go and adhere to and follow, and then be able to have that streamlined, that's a major issue for many of our businesses. In addition to that, we have to work on workforce preparedness. And a lot of times it's not just the head knowledge, it's the soft skills. Last week I was with one of the agencies, and there were 3 people who had already signed up to be interviewed for jobs, well-paying jobs. None showed. So and that's a common theme as we've gone around to many of our manufacturers, where they can go through the list, they can invite people to come in, but that they don't show up. Another business over in Caroline County found that they had to provide support, wraparound support, to be able to help those applicants really follow through. So that coaching and queuing is needed now more than ever to make sure that we can get those individuals through the application process into the job interview, and then be able to show up on the job on a regular basis. And I think that's one of the biggest things we can do, whether it's through apprenticeship programs, working with our businesses and education together. There's a lot of room for that in the new blueprint money that we could be putting to use.
Okay. And you keep the mic? Sure. So next question, that was more about helping existing businesses expand. What do you believe are the key assets of our community that would cause a business to decide to locate or not locate here?
Availability of workforce, number 1. Availability of land, number 2. Availability of resources. We have a number of very attractive opportunities. Broadband, we're on the water, so if folks want to work short days or long days and then be able to recreate, if you're a triathlete, you know, you've got that opportunity right here if you like to be outside. Our rich, deep cultural heritage, more and more individuals are looking at that and wanting to get to know families who are related to Harriet Tubman. That brings a lot of businesses here. Our climate's pretty moderate. I mean, we've been written up as cruising to Cambridge. We're one of the best small towns to be able to live, work, and play. And I think the friendliness of our people, if you talk to any of the folks who've participated in our Eagleman or Ironman, they would tell you they love to come to Cambridge because they love the hospitality, they love the culture, they love the opportunity to be in a small town. And I think there are many of the assets that we can market or brand, you know, to be able to move us forward. We have a deep port. We're the best sailing river, best kept secret on the Eastern Shore, because for those folks who do like to sail and be outside. You can go out on a workboat, you can go up on a farm. So we've got it all right here in Cambridge.
Thank you. Passing to Robbie, same question. Key assets on helping a business to decide to locate here or not.
So a couple of the key things are workforce availability and government regulation. Businesses, when they come, and we've had several, we've all heard the rumors over the last few years, we're going to have this come or we're going to have that come, but they face the same hurdles all the time. And you hear, well, they didn't come because they couldn't find workers. They couldn't find workers that would the caliber of what they wanted, or they couldn't find workers at all. And then the other aspect is government regulation. If we are fighting or we're giving ultimatums to businesses to say, hey, if you want to come here, but you're going to have to do this for us, or you're going to have to do that, that's not what they want to hear. There's plenty of other places they can go that welcome them with open arms and say, what can we do for you to make you come here? Those are the two key things I think that need to be addressed. Making sure we've got workers to handle the load of the businesses and the caliper of what we need, which we've already addressed several times, and to make sure that regulations and stipulations and fees and the requirements are minimal for these businesses. We want to make sure that we're coming in with open arms saying, what can we do for you, not what can you do for us. So streamlining the government, streamlining the process for new businesses and expanding businesses is probably the most major key that we can do right now to help promote our city.
Thank you, Robbie. Ms. Foster.
I believe that a few of the key assets of our community that will cause a business to decide or not to decide to come here is having a prepared workforce of workers that's able to take on the roles that they will have in their businesses. In addition to that, I feel that one of the deterrents of a business coming here would have to do with crime rate in addition to taxes. When taxes are high and fees are high and you have to go through 10 hurdles in order to get here through planning and zoning, et cetera, as Mr. Larimer stated, we have to streamline some of the regulations and not deter businesses from coming here, but find ways to encourage businesses to come here and be a part of our community.
Thank you. Judge Rideout.
I've been interested in hearing the answers because I heard this or read this question as a lawyer reads it, and I go, why would you have assets that would cause people not to come here? Assets are what will cause people to come here. And what I've heard is problems. I haven't heard, certainly the beauty of this county and the city and that sort of thing are assets, but what I would do is I'd call Charlie Fairchild and Hunter Fairchild and ask them, what brought them here? What did they see about this community that was an asset? I would ask the economic development people at the County Economic Development Office. What do you hear out there in the meetings that you go to or the meetings you have with businesses about why people are coming here or why they're not coming here? We don't have that kind of information. We aren't that knowledgeable. We aren't business people, or some may be, but we're not business people that are faced with those kinds of questions and issues on a daily basis. Certainly having an educated workforce would be an asset, but we don't have an educated workforce now. We need to do something like that, and that's one of the things that, quite frankly, moving Dorchester forward is looking at to help in that particular arena. An asset is certainly all things Harriet Tubman. I mean, that's tourism. That brings people here for visits to spend their money. So we certainly need to do that. Cambridge Harbor is another place that is an asset. An asset, or something that should be an asset, is the Hearn Building. But that's been sitting in disrepair for how many years now? How many years have we had to look at that place when it should have been fixed up? Thanks.
Excellent. Laurel, we'll end with you on that question.
So pros, location, location, location. We're on the major highway on the peninsula. We're within 3 hours of many major cities. We're not just on the water, but we're on a natural deep harbor with a safe port. We have home rule over our critical areas, which is something huge, if you're not aware of that. We have a rich history, and we have large swaths of quality housing that is actually at affordable prices. We do have elected officials that are eager to work with incoming businesses and see them succeed. And while we don't have a trained workforce, we have an eager workforce. So if we can link some of those things together and get that training and thing together, then one of those hindrances can come off of the list. Other hindrances are the appearance of a lot of our neighborhoods. Even our best blocks downtown have, best case scenario, a building that's for sale or for rent. In the middle, we have vacant storefronts that are unfinished and not really inhabitable. And worst case scenario, they're boarded up and not functional at all. Training our youth definitely is a big deal, but we can't ignore the optics of the crime that we have. That's definitely a hindrance that we have to deal with. For a community this size, you know, the statistics are definitely alarming. But the pros are huge, and I think we definitely need to highlight those a bit more.
Laurel, keep the mic. So we'll go on to the next question. What are 3 key issues that you would use the bully pulpit role of mayor of Cambridge to raise awareness?
So we've talked a fair bit already about education and training and making sure that we are connecting with our children and our young adults, and as much as possible their families, because we have to face the fact that some of these youth do not have the families that they need to guide them the ways that we want them to, so we need to get involved there. We need to ensure that the communities know what's available to them when they're ready to expand, you know, their knowledge and learn more and get some training. We should also work with Chesapeake College to bring more adult learning opportunities to this campus, because this campus is so perfectly, conveniently located for our community. Bringing more there gives more opportunities, empowers the workforce. Public safety is massive. I keep talking about connections, and I'm going to definitely continue to. In public safety and empowering our police force and all that, we need to connect with victims and survivors of violence and loss. We need to help them find support, hear their perspectives, and learn from their stories, because often they're in a situation we are never going to be in, and we need to hear that and learn from that. Work with the Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services in conjunction with CPD to secure plans and new strategies and technologies to help us pull away from this crime wave. And lastly, it's going to sound cheesy, I'm doing it anyway, hope and pride. We need to, in our public servant positions, be working with our citizens to inspire them to take more pride in their community and their neighborhoods. Success begets success, pride begets pride. If we can help these children feel more confident and positive and proud of their home and their neighborhood and their potential here, that's going to follow them as they grow up, and they're going to want to stay here and invest in this community and maybe join our police force and help protect that community. So those 3 things I think are definitely pivotal.
Okay, Addie.
Thank you very much. In the role of the mayor, I see the biggest one of championing Cambridge, you know, marketing. We've talked a lot about that. How do we promote Cambridge? How do we accentuate all of the best assets that we have already talked about here? The other issue I would talk about as well, along with tourism and all of our natural resources, is we need to be talking about how we will promote our safe communities. Safety in our communities is first and foremost for anybody who moves into town, and I've heard more about that in this past week than I've ever thought I would. But it's important that we build our communities from the strengths model. Build on what is working. We have a number of wonderful community centers and places of safety around in all of our jurisdictions within the city limits of Cambridge. And there are places where folks are engaged, where families can be engaged and feel safe. We need to expand that and work on that. And then the other issue I think we need to be talking about, and nobody wants to talk about it, and that's housing. We may have a lot of housing inventory, but we do not have housing for many people who need it and who are spending more than enough time over at their shelters. So how we look at that, how do we look at code enforcement? How do we look at the inventory? We've already done, previous mayors have already done a good job of doing the inventory. We need to take the next steps and then determine how we can continue to deal with poverty, address our housing situation so that everybody has an opportunity to have a safe place to live.
Thank you. Mr. Larimer.
The 3 key issues I see that I would be a major promoter of, crime, public safety, and more programs for kids. And all 3 of those go hand in hand. We've got to get our crime under control. We've got to make it safe for kids to go out on the streets. And the way to do that, we've got to promote our police force. We've got to empower them. We've got to provide more funding for them, put more officers on the streets, put the beat cops back downtown, which leads to public safety. We're right now at a point in Cambridge where we're fighting over a piece of fire equipment with the firefighters. You know, the firefighters gone out, they've give hundreds of hours every year of training. They leave their families all day and hours of the night, and we're nitpicking with them over a piece of fire equipment. If the citizens only knew how much money that them volunteers are saving versus having to have a paid fire company and the standards for that, they would be outraged. The fire company, and where I segue in that is from, I started off as a cadet at the fire company. That was one of the tools that kept me off the street, from being in trouble, from being out there causing mischief. So expanding programs like that, the cadet programs or the police cadet programs, to get the youth off the streets, give them something to do, right? The old saying, idle hands, right? So we've got to look at those kind of programs. We've got to look at those things that we can get the children involved after school, during school time, to help out. I think once we get the crime under control and we promote the kids doing stuff and staying idle, it's going to be a much nicer place, and everything's going to be an influx on its own, is solving itself.
Thank you. Ms. Foster.
The three issues that I would say is public safety, diverse activities for all ages, homelessness, and mental illness go hand in hand. Public safety is because we are suffering from a high crime rate. We had a little child that they don't talk about much, but he was shot in his head by a stray bullet just walking down his sidewalk. We have children that are afraid to go outside and play because of all the violence in the neighborhood. We have to find a way to get a hold of public safety. We have to work with our state's attorney's office. We have people that are willing to say who did what, except when they do, they find their name on Facebook where their name has been released to the offender, knowing this is the person who told on you. And that is one of the reasons why people are reluctant to talk. We have to find a better way. Diverse activities, and I used this statement before, from birth to the grave. We have little activities throughout the city of Cambridge that give something for everybody to do. We may have someone that likes mini golf. We may have someone that needs free tennis lessons. We have to find a way to bring more activities and more diverse activities and in more locations, not just in one location. We have 5 areas, 5 sectors. We can have a program or 2 in every area since we're talking from different ages. And quickly, mental health and homelessness. Look around. Our shelter lets them out 6 in the morning and they don't go back until 7 at night. They're sitting out in all elements, and most of them are mentally ill. I would bring awareness to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Rideout.
When I saw this question, I saw bully pulpit, and I don't see mayors who have a bully pulpit as being an effective mayor. I see that a mayor who can engage the community to allow the community or to cause the community to be strong and to be the one that has the bully pulpit, where it tells the community and city council what it wants is the solution. Certainly championing Cambridge would be a task that the mayor should do. Funding resources for children and families. A week or so ago, I was remembering my granddaughter was in Girls on the Run, and so I looked to see if there's a Girls on the Run program around here, and lo and behold, there is one for the Chesapeake region, and only recently have 2 asked to get started, one at the Y and one at Maces Lane Middle School. And so I reached out to find are there more women who might want to do a Girls on the Run program so that we can get healthy, get girls more healthy, and to have an activity after school, and something that's really not very expensive. With the issue of crime, if you'll look on my website at stephenrideout.com, one of the things that I think we ought to be doing is hiring 5, 10 community members to be community engagement people. They aren't going to be police, but they're going to be your neighbors who know you, who will go find out what what's going on in your life, become your friend, develop trust, and as a result of that, diminish a lot of the community crime, small crime that's going on. Thank you.
Judge Rideout, you keep the mic. We're going to shift gears a little bit. Out of the 100 or so people here, if I asked what the vision of the Cambridge waterfront would be, there would be 200 opinions. So, what is your vision for waterfront development from the fishing pier to the creek?
I'm not saying, because there are 250 different views out there already. And me inserting myself in that issue at this time, when we have had any number of community events and the CWDI having proposals and everything else going on, for me to insert myself into that issue, I'm going to support whatever is going on. I'm going to listen to what the community says if things aren't going right, or what CWDI is offering. But for me to insert my views at this time, I think is just the wrong thing to do. We have been doing this for 25 years. You don't need somebody at this juncture saying, oh no, that's wrong, I want to do it this way. We're going to do it the way it develops slowly over time, as with the CWDI, community involvement, community meetings, so that everybody will be able to have their say about what's going to happen.
Ms. Atkiss, same question. Your vision for waterfront development from the fishing pier to the creek.
I think it's vitally important that this development is as accessible, functional, and sustainable to our local citizens as we want it to be to tourists. We want it to pull people in, but we also need it to represent who we are and to maintain the historic integrity and charm of our city. It's incredibly important that we recognize that. The area needs to, as I said before, complement what we already have instead of competing with it. The packing house and the downtown, are doing so well right now. We want to be sure that the three can share and complement each other and spread the love around town. Studies show that traditions build community pride, and the traditions here are very, very deep, and a lot of them involve that river. I think it's vitally important that we give access to that river back in the way of a fishing pier, and making sure that the boat launch is what it needs to be for people to get out there and continue the things that are important to them. That also is going to open the door for tourism, tourists to be able to come and access those waterways and enjoy it as well. We rely on the bounty of the waterways. It's part of why we're here in the first place. But between the waterway and the green space, it's important to find some projects that are going to activate the space and feel vital to the community, an outdoor amphitheater. The traditions that happened in Salewinds and Governor's Hall were more important to the people than the hall was, so I think it's vital that we give back an event and venue space where people can continue those traditions and still feel like they're on that sacred ground, because it matters to them. Keeping our skyline and natural beauty in mind is important. Keeping the landscape and the runoff into the city in mind. Building with the view in mind, and making decisions with the community in mind, I think is very important. I think being very mindful in this development is important. That's hopefully part of the vision.
Thank you. Addie?
Thank you very much, and I'd take a combination of the last two speakers and I'd put it together, and then I'll add my 2 cents. I've been really fortunate to be involved with the waterfront since I was on the Dorchester Hospital Board, and we worked with the Committee of 100 to determine what that waterfront should be. And I will say that we have had so many different meetings over the past 25 or 30 years. We're still trying to figure out what it needs to be, but we do know a couple of things. We want to preserve the rich cultural heritage of our region. We also want that to be a type of a sacred space where it's a true reflection of all of our county, a working waterfront, and that's what we've heard over and over again. Create a working waterfront, but one that is guarded or has guarded, protected for the public, the open space. So whether it's the walkway around the edge, and whether it's the fishing pier that we need to get back in order as soon as possible, because many people depend on that actually for food as well as recreation, and people come from far and wide to fish on that fishing pier. that isn't there right now. The boat launch is critical. We have many people in and out of there on a regular basis, so that has to be preserved. And then many people do recreate in that space. And so that would be really important to have some kind of an entertainment venue, as we have had in the past. We have folks in the community that have a vision for a children's museum, for a hand-carved carousel. There are a number of elements that were there in the very beginning that I think we can capture as we move forward, but it's important that everybody has input.
Thank you. Mr. Larimer.
Well, my vision is the same as most of the community. They want open areas. They want a big playground. They want amphitheater, you know, something accessible to all the public, not just the few or putting condos up. But unfortunately, that vision might not come to fruition for most of the community. The city gave all their powers away to that property, to all those properties, to the CWDI. Yes, they maintained a person on the board, but there was no guarantee of a say of that person. So my vision would be to make the city empowered again as far as their say on that waterfront property. Make sure that whoever's there, the board members that are there, that the city has the ultimate final say on that, not the group of developers that stand to profit from what goes there. That's my vision, that we gain the power back in as the city, as the citizens of the city, to make the decisions on what we think should go there, not what's going to be most profitable for some developers that don't even live here and have nothing to do with the community. So that's my vision.
Ms. Foster, you have the final say on this topic.
I am one of those 200 voices in the community, so I will share my vision. In that area, I see a lot of entertainment and recreation for every citizen in the city of Cambridge first and foremost. I understand that they're having meetings, but I don't see those meetings coming into every area in the city of Cambridge, coming to places where people do not have transportation and talking to people. So the vision that is being portrayed is the vision among a certain few and not the entire city of Cambridge. I want that area, and I want Cambridge to be the hub of the Eastern Shore. We can attract people there, as stated earlier. It could be a place for entrepreneurs. We could have lots of recreation there for all kind of children, all kind of elderly, all kinds of adults, everybody in the city of Cambridge. The last thing that I want to see there is another condo, because the condo will not serve every citizen in the city of Cambridge.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. We'll start with you with this next question. It's been touched on a couple times this evening around housing. How would you improve the substandard state of housing in Cambridge, the disinvestment by landlords, and the need for affordable workforce housing in the city?
We've been talking about that issue since 1960, and we still have deplorable housing in the city of Cambridge. We could say, it's easy to say, let's shut the landlords down, but then we have more homeless people on the streets and nowhere to go. I would like to see Cambridge have a cap on the rent so that our citizens can afford the rent. I would like to see landlords that have one deplorable housing unit not be allowed to rent any deplorable units or any unit as far as that is concerned in the city of Cambridge. I would like for our state and federal senators and our state delegates to realize that we have a need. We have children that are sleeping in some areas on dirt floors or looking through cracks infested with bugs. And that's how they have to get up and go to school in the morning. I would bring awareness to this from every angle that I possibly could. And yes, I would get the people together to stand against the landlords. Every deplorable housing, the judge should order nobody pay rent at all, and nobody gets evicted until they find someplace to go.
Thank you. Mr. Rideout.
Thank you. Just an answer to about the CWDI and it having control over that property. Actually, the city owns CWDI. So the city ultimately has the right to say, if CWDI goes off in some direction, no, you can't go off in that direction. With regard to affordable housing and disinvestment by landlords, LLCs are the problems. A lot of rental houses are owned by LLCs, and so there's no personal liability so that the owner of the LLC can just not fix it up, walk away from it, not pay the taxes, and have no responsibility or no consequence for that. There's an article that I just read the other day from 2019. It's called The Organization of Neglect, Limited Liability Companies, and Housing Disinvestment. The issues that they talk about and that I had, some of which I had thought about, is you got to have effective code enforcement. You got to increase housing or taxes on the houses that are not maintained, so that those landlords who don't keep their houses up and code enforcement says so, their taxes go up. You need to establish neighborhood associations like CAN in the different neighborhoods so that they can be more active and more engaged in this. We need to require a minimum liability insurance on these properties to protect the renters so that if they're hurt, they'll be able to sue. Require more transparency on who is the LLCs. Pass legislation that if they don't have insurance on the property, the owner then has personal liability. It's a very complete article and gives us the direction to where we need to go here in Cambridge.
Thank you. Ms. Atkiss.
Some of the thoughts that I had, Mr. Rideout actually touched on. First is establishing a minimum livability standard, and then empowering the code enforcement to apply and genuinely enforce that. I feel like when you're hitting landlords, you got to hit them in the pocketbook. So another idea is the tiered rental registration, which was something that was presented to the board last year, to the commission last year. In that, all rentals in Maryland have to be registered, and there's a registration fee for that. So what you do is that you give a lower registration fee to the landlords that are providing quality homes, and you give a much higher registration fee to the landlords that are stacking up violations and fines, and make it harder for them, make it more expensive for them to not fix it than to fix it. And then also be sure that we're working with developers and builders that are coming into the area to ensure that they know what we need, what areas are lacking, what areas are full, and what areas, definitely could use some more study and some more expansion.
Thank you. Addie?
Thank you very much. Housing is a critical issue, and one of the things that I did a number of years ago, I worked with some of the members of the city and county council, and we put forth some legislation to look at how to bring more properties in a quicker way off the tax sale, and then how to create land banks so that you're dealing with the vacant and blighted properties to be able to get them off the tax sale, and the city could pool some of those and then do a couple of things. They either could work to be able to turn those, contract them out, to be able to build affordable housing that they would handle, or work with a series of developers and other folks to be able to finance that and to build housing in that way. But the issue, I think, right now is code enforcement. There has to be a way to consistently do code enforcement. Over the years, a number of the fires, a number of the other incidents that we've had have all been because of lack of responsible code enforcement when a property goes from one owner to another. And even when a property goes from one tenant to another, there almost needs to be an inspection at that point in time to make sure that it is adequate housing. We have many, many people who are living in conditions that none of us would want to live in. And I think that's really important to move that forward. Looking at the tiered system is really important. That's something that I hadn't considered before, and then the whole issue of the LLC. But I think we need to come together to build a very comprehensive, multiple intervention initiative to be able to move forward to really seriously address the housing. It's been going on too long. Octavine Saunders and I talked about this years ago. We even talked about figuring out how we could do a county and city housing authority to be able to pull all of our resources so we would have enough time. My time is up. Have enough resources to do that.
Mr. Larimer.
First, I'd like to counterpoint. It's Cambridge Waterfront Development, Inc., directly from the Chamber website. Corporation established for the purpose of developing Salem's properties. Matt Leonard, Executive Director, Frank Narr and Jeff Power on the board. There's other articles where the city's turned properties over to Cambridge Waterfront Development, Inc., so it's not part of the city, it's a corporation. As far as the housing is concerned, it's easy for us to sit up here and talk about deplorable housing and what's deplorable and what's not. I've been in a lot of these houses. What I think's deplorable and what other people think deplorable is two different things. I go in houses for evictions and other things, and the walls are plywood, the ceilings are plywood, the floor is concrete. I think that's deplorable, but to the people that are living there, that's all they can afford. It's either they're in that or they're out on the street. So we need to be careful balancing that, about kicking people out and causing up in standards. Yes, there needs to be life safety, there needs to be a quality of life standard for this housing, but we need to be careful with that, because if we don't have this, where are these people going to go? The landlords are going to jack the rent up twice as high. Then we're going to have twice as much homelessness, twice as many people on the street. So it is an issue. It's a long-standing issue. But the only way to address it is to work with the landlords and say, how can we help you help them? What can we provide? What can we do? Yes, we're going to enforce life safety codes, but when we go, you've got to have X, Y, and Z, or your windows need to be double paned, that's where we're going overboard. That's where it's going to cause people to be homelessness. So that's what we need to look at. Thank you.
Let's stay with you, Mr. Larimer. Thinking of how big these issues are, let's talk about the role of the mayor, particularly it's been mentioned tonight, crime and drugs in the city. So how do you see using the role of mayor to address crime and drugs in Cambridge?
Well, we need to work with the community as a whole, each area of the community. We need to involve the communities more. We need to make sure that the local representatives for each ward are involved with their communities, that they're seeking the input from the community that they serve, not just they're sitting back and not knowing what's going on. We need to make sure the police department is funded, make sure we have plenty of officers, make sure they're out on the streets doing their job, that the chief of police, whoever it may be, his hand's not tied. We need to look at better resources other than somebody from Baltimore City to tell us what our crime problems are, because that's certainly not an example that we need to be paying somebody $65,000 from Baltimore City to tell us what we need to be doing right for community policing. There's a lot better cities out there that we could be using that money for. That money could be going towards more salaries for more police officers. One of the things I personally would push for is the mayor and all city council salaries being cut in half, and all the insurances for those elected officials being cut. Because until the city police, until the city workers are funded fully and up to staff, there's no reason any elected official should be there collecting any money for that. That money would be much better spent at the department levels, which would boost morale at the police department, boost morale in Department of Public Safety Works, and that would help solve and reduce some of this crime issues.
Ms. Foster, how do you see using the role of mayor to address crime and drugs in Cambridge?
I see using that role first and foremost by using your ears. Listen to your community. Listen to our community. Listen to the citizens of Cambridge. Meet with citizens throughout the entire city. Look through their eyes and not just your own. Walk the streets. Talk to people. Get to know people. National Night Out should not be just one night. We should have this 5 times a year, one in every single ward. Roll up your sleeves, put your heads together, and do some real grassroots work. Find out what the problem is, find out if there is a problem, and work together with the entire community as a solution. What is a solution and what is a problem? on High Street may not be the same on Water Street, and they're connected. So you have to go in every single community and find out what are your needs. We do together as a city as a whole. And in addition to that, we have to work with our main support, which is every single city employee. They are the ones that actually keep this city running.
Thank you. Mr. Rideout.
Well, this is what I did for 15 years on the bench. When I started in 1989, we were sending 70 to 90 kids a year to the state. I was overwhelmed with juvenile delinquency cases. I didn't have any truancy cases because the school system wouldn't send them to us to get them services. By the time I left the bench, we were sending between 10 and 15 children a year to the state. We cut our delinquency rate in half. We increased our truancy caseload from 300 to 400 children a year that we were able to get services to. We found that substance abuse and mental health were 75% of the issues that these children were facing that we were able to get services to. Do I know that that's what the issue is here? I'll bet you my bottom dollar it is. But what we can do is, and what we have to do is we have to move from being reactive to proactive. We need to get programs for kids, after school programs, mental health services. We need weekend sports and weekend programs for kids. We need Girls on the Run. We need photography programs. We need those kinds of things that will engage children so that they will be more likely to do that than to start getting into trouble or getting into drugs. We need, one of the things that I'm trying to find is a group of volunteers who will learn about the federal education law idea to become advocates for parents and children regarding their 504 plans and their IEPs. The answer is there. The answer is in the community, and that's what I would be doing, is helping that to happen.
Atkiss.
Definitely healing the communities and instilling more pride in our youth and empowering them is at the root of reducing crime in the future. But the term community policing, I think, has really come about because our officers have pulled back from the community in a climate where police and community relations haven't gone well all around the country, and people have responded, very aggressively to that. And what we need to create is an environment, again, where citizens feel comfortable talking to our police officers. We don't want people going, oh, there's the cops. We want people going, hey, there's Officer Smith. We want to get those beat cops and those bike cops back out there to engage with the kids and to open up dialogues between them so that there's more healthy discussion and debate at solving problems than there is calling officers in to solve problems. Someone mentioned community liaisons to be out there and help communities effectively communicate with each other and even within their own households so that officers aren't called as often to deal with things that they aren't necessarily trained to deal with, and where their time would definitely be better used. But there's definitely support that needs to be issued to them to help them succeed and to establish those connections. And the fact that they're understaffed, I think we are at 35 out of 46 recommended officers right now. That's a huge thing, and part of being short-staffed is that they aren't compensated well enough for the job that they do. So we definitely need to examine that and figure out ways to fix it, to retain officers and to invite new ones here that are going to care about our city as much as we do.
Last word on this question, Addie.
Thank you very much. First of all, we need to fully fund the police. That's really important. I think all of us realize that. But our police are really our ambassadors in the community as well. I know I've seen that over the past couple of weeks, just recently, whether it's the night out or whether it's one of the churches having an event. The police have been there. The new cadets have been there, getting to know members of the community. And again, working in conjunction with the existing task force to look at gun violence and crime. As all of the community members, representatives from all of the different areas in the city come together, that's when the development of a multifaceted, again, strategy, because it's not one thing. It's being able to take those areas of safe places that are in each of our districts to be able to build on those, to have community people be involved, families be involved, but engage other families to be able to strengthen those communities and provide opportunity to, I guess, live, work, and play together, if you will, in safe neighborhoods, like the Peach Blossom Initiative, or we have the Boys and Girls Club, we have the YMCA, we have the Empowerment Center, we have some additional programs going on down at Greenwood Avenue. All of those opportunities are preventative to be able to keep our young people engaged and our community engaged. But then we also have to identify where the issues are and be able to bring in more resources to be able to deal with the mental health and substance use and abuse. But prevention, to me, is one of the bigger aspects of this whole initiative as we go forward, in addition to funding the police. Thank you.
Okay. Addie, we'll stay with you for this next question. You mentioned city and county together earlier, and me being from way up north end of the county. What should the city and county be working on collaboratively to benefit the entire community?
Oh, there are lots of things that could be. And you've heard me say that before. Again, you have to have willing partners. One of the reasons why we haven't moved forward with what's happening at the Waterfront is because for years, when we tried to do that, we couldn't get the city and the county working together. God bless both the city and the county, because now we have CWDI, because that's a combination with representatives from both, because it is a collaborative effort. So that's the first experience that we have, and we need to build on that. As you build on that, we could take housing. We could take economic development. We could look at public service is another one. I guess in an ideal world, I'd like to see us be able to have a track. You know, with the chamber, we provide apprentice programs through a lot of our businesses. Why aren't we provided apprentice programs through our government entities? You know, what about the public utilities, public service part of it, public safety? And like you had said, Robbie, you know, how do you bring in the cadets, both fire and police? But why don't we do that with all aspects of government? We could be working together with the county if we can get willing participants and be able to brainstorm how we can better utilize the resources that we both have, and we'd probably save money and get more done.
As far as the community and crime and the children are concerned, one of the best ways would be more partnerships between the city and the county for open spaces, for parks, for recreations, for programs for the youth. This has been an ongoing issue for years, the city and the county not getting along. It's been fight after fight. No, you know, this one wants this, that one wants that. There's so many opportunities to partner to make both places, the city and the county, better. Why do we have city economic development and a county economic development? They should be working hand in hand together, because what benefits one is going to benefit both. Grants for both. Just the general relationship in the government needs to be better. We all pay city taxes. We ask, we know our taxes are double what they are if you lived in the county, and you've got to ask yourself, what do you get for those taxes? The city years ago got rid of EMS service and said, hey, county, we're not going to do it anymore. Guess what? You're going to have to do it. 5, 10 years ago, they got rid of the dispatchers for the police department. They said, you know what? We're not doing it anymore. County, it's your problem. So that seems been an ongoing issue over the years. Look at Woods Road. We've got the same issue there. Nobody wants to partner with anybody or work with anybody. We've got to make sure the city manager and the county manager and the city council and the county councils are working together. I know both sides. I've been on both sides, you know, so I know the struggles of it and would be a very good advocate and resource of promoting the unity of government.
What should the city and county be doing to work collaboratively together to benefit the entire community?
The city, county, and the county council need to work together as a whole. The city is the hub of the county. We sit in the county. We are part of the county. When it comes to education, I feel that the city feels that it is on the county, but it is not, because what that educational system produces is in our city. I feel that we should work more collaboratively with education. Public safety, I feel that at this point, public safety works. The sheriff's department, the state police, and the city work together. They back each other up all the time. They are taking the lead and showing the city officials and the county what a real partnership is. The city cannot do it without the county, and the county certainly would not like to do it without the city. I also feel that we should take a joint role in finding activities and recreation for every citizen in the city of Cambridge. The end goal is to promote all of the citizens in Dorchester County and the city of Cambridge. There are many areas, that is just three, that I have mentioned tonight that we can work in, but there are many areas that we could come together as one, and we can do that with respect. Respect the fact that we may have a difference of opinion from someone, but acknowledge that we all want to get to the same place at the end of the road, the betterment for every citizen in the city of Cambridge and Dorchester County.
Thank you. Steve?
When La-Shon and I were on city council together, the county cut off the joint meetings that we would have so that we would be able to work together. In 2020, in December of 2020, the county manager quit. They have not replaced the county manager now in over a year and a half. When something will happen is when we have elections in November, and we can get rid of, or those districts where there are candidates can get rid of the people in county council that are the problem. Everybody, I've been working on the charter change effort for the county, and everybody who is running for county council wants that to happen. When the new county council comes in, I have every belief that we will have what you all are talking about here, collaboration and cooperation again. One of the things that I would like, because we have such a low number of police officers, is maybe having the sheriff and the city police collaborate so that during those difficult times of the evening or weekends, we might have some extra police on duty. I mentioned to you earlier about hiring some civilian people who live in the community to try to help the community tamp down some of that. I'd like to see recycling again on Leonard's Lane. Sorry, you don't like that, I do. And then sea level rise is a very important part of what's happening in the city with the Cambridge Shoreline Group. I'd like to see more collaboration with the county on that.
Thank you. Laurel?
We've talked a lot about education tonight, and we definitely should continue to do so. You know, as much as we want to be involved in the schools, the schools are really controlled by the county. So collaborating on that level to make sure that we're strengthening the educational opportunities that we're providing for our children and strengthening the outcomes for them and the kids coming out of the schools. We also have broader economic development opportunities if we work together with the county. You know, we might have a business or industry that's looking at the city, and we don't have exactly what they have to offer, but maybe just outside the city limits the county does, and we both benefit, you know, in creating jobs and tax revenue from doing that. So we definitely want to maintain those relationships to work on developing those two areas further.
We'll stay with you, Laurel. And I think you actually mentioned this earlier around kind of our legacy, our rich history. How will you promote Cambridge's rich African-American history while protecting it from gentrification?
The gentrification question is truly important in more than just our African-American communities. This is something that occurs when we price our residents out of their homes, when the improvements around them make the value of the property rise to the point where the taxes are beyond their reach to stay there. And it's tricky territory to walk into, but we are always present of embracing the standard tax rate that the state recommends, so that as prices do go up, taxes do actually stay at a more reasonable level for our citizens, and that's definitely very important. As we're doing that waterfront development, that's another place where we definitely need to pay attention to not letting gentrification happen, because if we do put condos or homes or make choices to do very high-valued properties there, we run the risk of driving some of those residents in that neighborhood out as well. That's another reason that the development there needs to be very thoughtful as it moves forward.
Senator Eckardt?
Yes, thank you very much. We do have a rich, deep cultural heritage, and we're experiencing a lot of that right now. We're going to be dedicating the statue as the Harriet Tubman statue comes in this next month, and I think that's going to be a great celebration. It's a wonderful opportunity to continue to work on healing that needs to occur. And while we are doing that, we do want to make sure we have truly integrated neighborhoods. There are a lot of places, and pricing and affordability are the key issues, because we do want to have adequate workforce housing. But we also want to make sure that we have housing for everybody, and that's going to be important. As we promote that, as I would see, the mayor would not only promote it regionally and across the state, but making sure we capture and take advantage of all the resources that are available. Many times there are pots of money that are designated for our rich cultural heritage, and that money's left on the table. So that's another way that we can try to capture funding for many of the initiatives that make us all richer as we move forward.
Excellent. Mr. Larimer.
We're doing leaps and bounds now. We're having festivals, we're having street closures, a lot of great events out there promoting the culture of the Cambridge. Where we're lacking is we're doing two separate things instead of making one big event. You know, we're doing Poplar Street closures and Poplar Street events, and then we're having, Pine Street events. I think we need to expand and make them bigger, one big event. Make sure we're promoting safe travel between the two areas, Poplar Street, Pine Street. Encompass that as part of the downtown area, not secluded as a separate area. There's leaps and bounds that we could do. I don't have all the answers, and that man, well, never mind. I don't see Mr. Ames. I guess he got up and went to the bathroom. I've leaned on him many years. He's given me advice over many years, and he's the type of person, he's the community people that we need to seek this kind of information from. Are we doing enough? What should we be doing? What's not working? Because he, with his age and wisdom, he can shine a lot of insight into that issues. But again, I just think that instead of having two separate, we need to make it one all-encompass. That way the people that are visiting Poplar Street will visit Pine Street and visit those small shops, those mom and pop shops, and vice versa. It will just help promote the downtown area, that whole area, the culture of the city in a totality.
Ms. Foster.
I say that we need to preserve our historical sites and stop tearing them down. We have buildings that have a lot of significant history in the city of Cambridge and the African American community. We preserved the building on Ray Street that's been there for so many years, I can't even tell you. But we would tear down a building in the 2nd and 3rd Ward without putting grants and resources in it to preserve it. That is history. We have a lot of history that burned down on Pine Street, but there are many of us here that can tell that history. We have a building on Pine Street right now that belongs to, I believe, a gentleman, and I don't want to call his name. I see that as being a museum for the African American culture and for the history. That history is a part of Cambridge. It's a part of you, whether you live in West End or whether you live on Wells Street. It's still a part of your history here in the city of Cambridge. I also see the gentrification issue. In order for us to improve the impoverished houses, it is going to make the taxes go up. But we as a city do not do enough to get the word out to a lot of our elderly and a lot of our impoverished neighborhoods that there are state grants that will help pay for your property taxes so that you don't have to worry about not getting your medication or not being able to afford your property taxes. The city as a whole should take that on. We take the time to go put a note on their door when we feel that they haven't cut the grass. Why can't we put a note on their door letting them know that they can apply for this grant and this is the number you call to get the help? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rideout.
And what La-Shon was just talking about is one of the things that the people that I mentioned that the city would hire to work out in the community could do. They could be out there helping the elderly with the problems of taxes or understanding how they could get tax money from the state to help pay for their city taxes. I'm in a bit of an awkward position here in that I'm not sure that a 79-year-old white man needs to be telling the black community how it promotes or should promote its heritage. I certainly, if I'm the mayor, would do what was asked of me, but I don't think that I'm the one that ought to be making those decisions. The African American community needs to be at the forefront of that and come to the mayor and say, we would like your help here or we would like your help there. And I certainly would be more than happy to help, but I don't feel that I'm the person that would be up front, the promoter, until I knew exactly all the different issues and ideas that need to be presented. One thing that I would like to see that still has not happened but should is that the downtown Cambridge Main Street and the Pine Street community need to be working together on these events that Robert was talking about earlier. I agree that they have been separated for so long, although Pine Street is part of downtown Cambridge. One of the things that really needs to happen, and there's a law was recently passed, I think this year, Senate Bill 0092, that helps clarify the ownership of, or will allow the clarification of the ownership of properties here. What we have is often when somebody passes away and a home owns the home, but then doesn't have a will, doesn't have some directive that can be recorded to pass that property on, then there becomes confusion and you get 2 generations, 3 generations down, nobody knows who's the owner of the property. And as a result, that's a problem. Thank you.
Okay, we'll stay with you, Steve. This is going to be the last question. Just as a reminder, you also have a 2-minute closure at the end. Last question. What is your vision for Cambridge? Where would you like Cambridge to be in 5 years, 10 years, and how do you plan to get there?
Well, I see Cambridge being a community where our youth are growing up healthy and educated with multiple after-school programs, opportunities to learn. We'll have larger businesses here that will be hiring our trained adults and high school graduates, as well as our young people coming back from college. We'll have an increased tax base with much higher real estate assessments and much lower tax rates. We'll have a waterfront that's protected, stormwater and sewer systems that work, that don't pollute. The Cambridge Shoreline Resilience Project is working on that particular part of the problem and has been doing it for the last 2 years and is well along in finding federal funding to help address all of those problems. How we do that is, again, coming together, working with the county, hopefully when we have a new county council that is willing to work with us on a variety of these kinds of issues.
Excellent. Laurel, what is your vision for Cambridge? Where would you like Cambridge to be in 5 years, 10 years, and how do you plan to get there?
I bring a lot of inspiration from my hometown in West Virginia, where my mom still lives. It's Lewisburg, West Virginia, tiny little town that was founded in like 1751, has Civil War battle sites, only 3,900 citizens. As I was growing up there, I was watching the town age out. You know, the department stores were closing in place of big box stores. The people that had been running the small, quaint restaurants were growing up, and there weren't another generation to follow it. So places were closing, and the town was kind of falling into disrepair. And it took a grassroots effort by concerned citizens to make that town vital again. And it wasn't just personal investments, it was reaching out to state and other agencies to invite people in. But over the 30 years since I was in high school there, they've elevated themselves to this town that is recognized repeatedly in Southern Living, Better Homes and Gardens, TripAdvisor, Travel and Leisure, as one of these great small towns to live and work in and a place to definitely visit. They've branded themselves, they've promoted themselves as a group, as a brand. It's very cohesive, and I think that there's something to learn from towns that have found a way to do that, have inspired their people to get involved and help bring it up instead of waiting for other people to come in, because as I said before, success begets success. If we can create this contagious energy year-round and bring that through to the coming years and into the waterfront and into the packing house, I think we can gain and maintain a reputation for being truly great.
Senator?
Thank you very much. Years ago, we had a vision, and some of that vision is playing out right now. It's very exciting to me. Back in the 90s, when we were able to work with Governor Shaver to be able to have a vision for the waterfront, that was very exciting to me. And one of the reasons we moved into downtown Cambridge was not only because of our friendships that we've developed with the African American community, but wanting to see Cambridge thrive. So to me, the vision would be a bustling downtown arts and entertainment district with businesses that truly reflected the population in downtown Cambridge, connected to Pine Street, as we've talked about, so that it's a total thoroughfare, if you will, but then also connecting by water over to the waterfront with a lot of, some of the older buildings that we've preserved could be brought back on the waterfront so that we might have a little fishing village, or we might have some of the Hooper's Island houses brought back up there so that it becomes a historical museum opportunity for our cultures, but we recreate at the same time. And then also being able to address a number of the issues, the water intrusion that we have, the dualization of our wastewater treatment and stormwater that's become a real issue. We need to move forward with that, and continued technology and connectedness. And I would like to see us have some part of this a cybersecurity business for many of our young people that we've also been working on, as you know, through the Regional Council. That's a little bit. I could go on with more, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Larimer?
First off, there's the gentleman back there, Mr. George James, that I was referring to, so people don't think I'm crazy. He would be the absolute best mentor for that area and what is best. As far as vision of Cambridge, I'm born and raised here. I grew up here, and we're having there was discussions being had on Poplar Street and speeders. Friday, Saturday nights when I was growing up, you didn't have that problem downtown Cambridge because the streets were so crowded with people. The businesses were all open. You know, everybody went down there for dinner, to shop, to watch the movies, you know, ride the elevator at Leggett's. So that's kind of the vision I have. I want to see that come back for my kids. There's not abandoned storefronts, there's not abandoned buildings, you know, falling apart downtown Cambridge. That whole area needs to be